I'm 92 years old and I'm tired. Tired of carrying this. My husband Arthur had another family, a whole other child. And I found out in 1971, and I kept that secret for 53 years. 4 weeks ago, that child, a grown man named Marcus, knocked on my front door. He's 59 years old. And now my children know everything their father was. And honestly, everything I became because of it. Arthur and I got married on June 12th, 1949, at St. Jude's Episcopal Church on the west side of Philadelphia. I was 21. He was 23, and the most handsome man I'd ever laid eyes on. And I need you to understand that I knew that. Everybody in that church knew that. And that was part of the problem, but we'll get to that. We moved into a house on Ellsworth Street. Same house I'm sitting in right now. Same kitchen, same window I've been staring out of for 71 years. We had James in 51, Linda in 53, Brenda in 56, and David in 60. 4 children in a 2-bedroom house, and somehow we made it work. Because when you're young and in love, you think that's enough. I'm telling you right now, it is not enough. Love without honesty is just a pretty room with no floor. Arthur worked at Baldwin Locomotive Works. 31 years, came home every night smelling like fire and metal. He coached Little League on Saturdays. Was a deacon at St. Jude's, the kind of man people pointed to at church picnics and said, now that's a good man right there. And he was. I'm not going to sit here at 92 years old and lie about that. Arthur was good to those children. He was good to the neighborhood. Charming, generous. Everybody's favorite. But you know what I've learned in 92 years on this earth? The people everybody loves. Sometimes they've got that much love going around because they're spreading it in places they got no business spreading it. October 1971. I remember because Brenda was at the kitchen table making her Halloween costume. She wanted to be Diana Ross, and I had the radio playing. Arthur was supposed to be at a deacon's meeting at church. He'd been having a lot of those meetings that year. Tuesday meetings, Thursday meetings, Saturday morning meetings. Now, I need you to hear me on this. I am not a fool. I'm a lot of things, but I am not and have never been a fool. A woman knows when the air in her own house changes. They'll tell you you're crazy. They'll tell you you're making things up, but a woman knows. Don't let anybody tell you different. I went through his jacket pockets. 22 years of marriage, and I'd never done that. And I'm not proud of it, but I did it. And I found a photograph. A little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, standing in front of a brick building I didn't recognize. On the back, in Arthur's handwriting, it said, Marcus, age 6, April 1971. Before I continue, thank you to this channel for listening to me and reaching my voice to people. You can subscribe, which is free. Like the video and share your thoughts in the comment section. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I sat down at the kitchen table across from Brenda and her little Diana Ross wig, and I looked at that photograph and I thought very calmly. So this is what 22 years gets you. Arthur came home at 11:30 that night. I was sitting in the dark in the living room. He turned on the light and saw me holding the photograph, and his face just, collapsed, like watching a wall come down. He didn't even try to deny it. He said, Ruby, let me explain. I said, You've got one chance, Arthur. One. Her name was Gloria Thompson. Lived on the north side over on Broad Street. He'd been seeing her since 1964, 7 years. Marcus was born in 1965. My husband had a 6-year-old son 20 minutes across town, and he'd been going back and forth between two families like we were shifts at the locomotive works. But the affair isn't what I kept secret for 53 years. It's what I did next. Because finding out about Gloria wasn't what changed me. What I chose to do about it is what changed everything. I should have left. I know that. You're thinking it right now. And you're right. But listen to me. It was 1971. I was 43 years old with 4 children between the ages of 11 and 20. I had no job. Arthur didn't want me working. And like a fool, I listened. No money of my own. House in his name. And in our community. In our church. If Ruby Banks divorced Arthur Banks, you know what they would have said? They would have said, I couldn't keep my husband. They would have said, something must be wrong with me. That's how it was. I don't care if you don't like hearing that. That's how it was. So, I stayed, but I made conditions. I told Arthur he would sign this house over to my name. He would put $200 every month into an account with only my name on it. And he would never see that woman or that boy again. Or I would stand up in St. Jude's. Arthur cried, got on his knees on this very floor, agreed to everything, and I believed him again. At 92 years old, I can tell you the most dangerous thing in the world is a woman who wants to believe her husband. We'll talk ourselves into anything. I became a different woman after that night. I know my children felt it. I got hard. I was watching everything. Every phone call. Every late night. Every dollar. I ran this house like a warden because I was terrified that if I blinked, it would all come apart again. My children didn't understand why Mama was always angry, always suspicious, always cold. James once said right to my face, he was maybe 12. He said, Daddy's the one who holds this family together, not you. 12 years old. I wanted to grab that boy by his shoulders and say, you have no idea what I'm holding together. But I just said, go do your homework. Linda was the one who cut the deepest, and she didn't even know she was doing it. She was about, 19, 20, getting ready to go out somewhere. And we got into an argument about some little thing, her skirt, I think. And she looked right at me and she said, Mama, why are you so mean? Daddy never acts like this. What happened to you? What happened to me? Like I woke up one morning and chose this. Like I wasn't standing guard over every single thing she took for granted. And you know what I found out later? Arthur never stopped seeing Gloria. He never stopped seeing Marcus. The $200 a month he was putting in my account. He was giving her $300. He looked me in my eyes, cried on my kitchen floor, agreed to my conditions, and walked right back across town. The following week, he played me for 36 more years. I turned myself into somebody my own children didn't even like. And it was all for nothing. That's the part I can't forgive. Not the affair. The fact that I became the villain of my own family, protecting a lie that wasn't even working. Arthur died on March 8th, 2007. Heart attack at the locomotive reunion dinner. Died surrounded by friends, people shaking his hand, telling stories about good old Arthur. 400 people at the funeral. Standing room only at St. Jude's. The pastor called him a pillar of this community. I sat in the front pew in my black dress and I did not cry. Not one tear. Linda squeezed my hand during the hymn and whispered, It's okay to cry, Mama. I said, I know. But I didn't, because I'd used up all my crying on that man 36 years before, and he didn't even know it. After Arthur passed, my children drifted. James moved to Baltimore. Brenda went to Richmond. David took a job in Charlotte. Linda stayed in Philadelphia, but she visits less and less. Calls on Sundays, maybe 10 minutes. She asks about my blood pressure. I ask about her garden, and we both pretend that's a real conversation. I've been alone in this house for 17 years. 71 years on Ellsworth Street. And most days now, the only voice I hear is my own. And let me tell you, you do not want to be the only person listening to yourself at 92. 4 weeks ago, a Saturday morning, I was sitting in my chair doing my crossword. I do the Inquirer crossword every day. Keeps my mind sharp. And at 92, you better keep your mind sharp or it'll leave without you. And someone knocked on my front door. I don't get Saturday visitors. I don't get most day visitors. If I'm being honest. I opened the door and there was a man on my porch. 59 years old, medium build, greying at the temples. And I knew, before he opened his mouth, I knew exactly who he was because he had Arthur's eyes. That deep brown, those little wrinkles at the corners, he looked like Arthur the day I married him. Standing on my porch, wearing my husband's face, he said, "Ma'am, my name is Marcus Thompson. I believe my father was Arthur Banks." I stood there for a long time. Then I said, "I know who you are. Come inside." Marcus sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I found that photograph 53 years ago, and told me everything. Gloria died in 2015. Arthur visited them regularly until the day he died. Marcus had birthday cards, Christmas photos, pictures of Arthur holding him as a baby, at his little league games, at his high school graduation, at his wedding. My husband attended another woman's son's wedding, and I didn't know. He was at Marcus's wedding, and Marcus brought a box. Letters, photographs, a whole life in a shoebox. And inside was a letter Arthur wrote in 2006, 1 year before he died. It said, and I remember every word because some sentences burn themselves into your brain and just stay there. "You and your mother deserve better than the shadows. Ruby deserved the truth." I was too much of a coward. Marcus looked at me across my own kitchen table and he said, "Mrs. Banks, I didn't come here to cause trouble. I just wanted to know my father's family." And I looked at this man, this child, who never asked for any of this, who grew up without his father's name, who spent 59 years in the shadows. And I felt something I did not expect. I wasn't angry at him. I was sorry because Arthur failed every single one of us. Every single one. I called Linda that evening. I said, "Baby, I need you to come over. There's something I should have told you a very long time ago." She came. I told her everything. 53 years broken open at my kitchen table over 2 cups of coffee that went cold because neither one of us could drink. Linda didn't speak for a long time. Then she said very quietly, "So all those years that's why you were..." I said, "Mean, hard, cold, watching everything." "Yes." She started crying. Not the polite kind. The kind that comes up from somewhere deep, from a place you didn't know was holding anything. She said, "Mama, I told you. I stood in this kitchen and I told you Daddy was the good one. I said that to your face." I said, "I know, baby." She said, "Why didn't you tell us?" And I said, "The only honest thing I had left because I wanted you to have a father, even if it cost your mother." She grabbed my hands across the table. My daughter hasn't held my hands in, I can't even tell you how many years. She held on like I was going to disappear. James called the next day from Baltimore. He was quiet, which is not like James at all. He said, "Mama, I owe you an apology. I spent 40 years thinking you were the problem. I said, "You were a child, James. Children believe what they see." He said, "I'm not a child anymore, and I'm sorry." That one I felt. Brenda cried on the phone for 40 minutes straight. She kept saying, "Mama, you should have left him." And you know what? She's right. She's absolutely right. But being right and being able, those are two very different things. And I wish more people understood that. David hasn't called. He's 64 now. Lives in Charlotte. He was always Arthur's boy. Followed his daddy around like a shadow. I imagine finding out the truth feels like somebody pulled the floor out from under the house he built his whole life on top of. I understand that. I lived it. But I'm 92 years old. I do not have the luxury of waiting for everybody to be ready. Time is the one thing I'm almost out of. Linda comes every Saturday now. She drives across town and sits in this kitchen, and we do the crossword together. She's terrible at it, honestly. But I don't tell her that. James is driving up from Baltimore next month. He says he's bringing his grandchildren. I've never met them. I'm about to meet my great-grandchildren for the first time at 92 years old. If that doesn't tell you something about what secrets do to a family, nothing will. David will call when he calls, or he won't. I spent 53 years waiting for a man to do the right thing. I'm not doing that again. Ellsworth Street, 71 years. Same kitchen, same window. But when Linda holds my hands on Saturdays, I'm not the mean one anymore. I'm not Arthur's wife. I'm just Mama. And I have been waiting a very, very long time to be that again.